You're live.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Free Assange Vigil. My name is Steve Poikinen. I am joined by all of my co-hosts today. We have Andrew Smith, Kendrick Christian, and Misty Winston. We will be joined by our wonderful friends and comrades with the UK Team Assange crew, including a very special guest. And I'm not nearly as excited about this as Misty is, but we'll get there shortly. Let me run through the numbers real quick as they stand on January 23rd, 2021. Today marks 3,696 days of illegal and arbitrary detention for Julian Assange, 651 days since the WikiLeaks founder was trafficked from the Ecuadorian embassy after being sold to the United Kingdom for a $4.2 billion IMF loan. It's been 17 days since District Judge Vanessa Breitzer, concierge to the U.S. State Department, issued a ruling denying bail for Julian Assange after ruling against extradition. And personally ordering his release, which is still one of the wildest things to me about this whole aspect, is that there really legit is an order for release for Julian Assange as part of the no extradition ruling, which then 48 hours later was turned into a denial of bail. We'll get to that and more. Today marks 1,320 days of federal incarceration for Reality Winner. 316 days of freedom for Chelsea Manning, however, and she is still streaming on Twitch. Go find her, go give her love. Today marks 67 days out of federal prison for Jeremy Hammond, who is currently the resident of a halfway house, and we hope that time is short time and that he can get as far away from any institutions as humanly possible. And with that, let me kind of just lay out where we are right now with Julian's case. We talked about this a little bit on the day that the ruling came out, but what happens now is more than likely going to be a dragging of heels by the U.S. Department of Justice. It had Breitzer ruled for extradition. We were expecting this whole process to be fast-tracked. Now that the shoe's on the other foot, and it's up to the U.S. to appeal, which they have, we're likely going to see this process dragged out for as long as humanly possible. There is currently, and maybe I'll let Misty talk about that because it's her baby. Why don't you go ahead and introduce the letter writing campaign, Misty Winston?
Okay, so a couple days ago, it actually wasn't even my idea. I'm not going to take credit for it. I wish I could remember the person's name, but I don't. I'll look. But somebody approached me and said, hey, we should start a letter writing campaign in, defense of Julian Assange. We can, if we're all coordinated and we all send them all on the same day, it might make an impact. And he was like, you have the platform, you have a big enough platform that you could get it going. And I'm like, cool, so I'll do that. So we started, I started forming a DM group. I was not aware that you could only have 50 people in a group DM on Twitter, which is a really stupid thing, and Twitter should fix that. So I started with 2 DM groups, and it's exploded. I mean, I probably have at least another 100 to 150 people who are interested in joining. So I started a Discord server. Hopefully people will follow us over there. We're starting on Monday. We're going to start with just one letter just to get it going, so everybody can kind of get a feel for how the letter should be written, what it should include, that sort of thing. And we're going to go straight at Biden this time on Monday. So if you're interested in joining us, it's really easy. Just write a short, concise letter that kind of details the reasons why prosecuting Julian Assange is bad. You can, the biggest thing I've been going at right now is does Biden want to continue Trump's legacy? So if you can kind of hold it to, and I know it's not a Trump legacy thing, it really started under Obama, but just for, appearances. It makes Biden look bad if he does continue that legacy. So that's the tact I've been taking. So on Monday, if you want to participate, have a letter written and ready to go for Monday's mail and send it into the White House. The address is easy to find online. And then I think we're going to try for at least once a week, and we're going to rotate through different lawmakers, both from the US, the UK, and Australia. We may do, a couple different letters a week. We may stick with just one a week. I don't know how it's going to all kind of, unfurl, but this is just something, quick and easy. It doesn't take very long to just write a quick letter, shove it in an envelope, and put it in the mailbox. So this is just something pretty basic and simple that people can get involved in and, try to get some support drummed up for Julian. And that's about it.
Great. Brilliant. Fantastic.
Would you like to introduce our guest, Misty?
I would. So we have, should we introduce all of them or just my favorite? Because I love Eric. So Eric's here, who is my favorite person in the whole wide world. He's like probably my favorite activist on earth. And we're very excited to have him. Well, I am anyways. I'm probably blushing a little bit actually, because I love him so much. So we have Eric, and then we have I think Allie. I can't see who's on my left. I can't see, like, it's my screen.
Red.
That's Allie and Jill.
There's Allie. No, who's the other one?
Jill.
Okay. No, my screen's just, my internet sucks, so my screen's a little fuzzy, so I couldn't quite make out who. I knew Allie, but I couldn't. Yeah. So we have Joe, Allie, and Eric from the Assange UK team, and they're amazing. They are warriors. They're out there all the time getting bullied by cops. So thank you guys so much for joining us today.
I am really looking. I don't know if looking forward is the right word, but I'm curious to hear about how all of with UK Metro Police, the three of you have had over the last several months, how that's panning out. And I know that at least two of you have been roughed up a little bit by the uniformed arbiters of state violence. So
we now have a security detail that accompanies us wherever we go. We're in a white van now, traveling at very fast speeds on the streets of London.
Disguises.
Yeah. No, but we're okay.
Yeah.
Neck injury, bit of a neck injury from one. And Mr. Eric had a slight injury. I mean, he's an athlete, so yeah, he's all right. But no, that wasn't caused by the police.
But it was probably police forces acting with some kind of direct energy weapons.
Voodoo magic or direct energy weapons. That's right.
So they weren't in the room, but I suspect that's what made Eric probably fall.
Exactly. Yeah, he tipped his balance because he just couldn't, believe what happened to him when he was kidnapped.
Right.
Yeah.
Can we talk about that for a minute?
Yeah, I was going to say for our audience, if you guys could, and me too, if you could run through the story, that'd be great.
Yeah, let Eric have the floor there.
Eric, do you want to start off?
Yeah, on what topic or what?
Well, we're talking about the arrest in particular.
Yeah, well, of course, from the police's point of view, they would say they're doing this to protect me, but I don't accept this. On the contrary, I think they wanted to remove somebody who get publicity, and it's not has nothing to do with me and whether I'm particularly important, but that of course many people will react to an older person being arrested, and if I can make use of that to further publicize the injustices done to Julian Assange, I'll take advantage of that. And I think one should be held back by false modesty. But of course, we've all got to recognize that we're equally important, and sometimes it's good to get publicity for oneself or for another person, because this will inspire people. I'm looking at the sign there, "Love not bombs," and I'm reminded of what Che Guevara said, revolutionary statement. Let me say, at the risk of sounding ridiculous, that a revolutionary must be guided by great feelings of love, love of peace, love of national independence, self-determination, and all this is very important. And yes, we do love the people. We have confidence in them, and they shouldn't be denied a voice. Unfortunately, here in England, and I gather it will be the same in the United States, where I lived a number of years, that yes, people don't have a voice. It's very much the media that speak and write, and we do need publicity. When people know the truth, as the saying goes, the truth will set you free. And it's often been said that the first casualty in a war is the truth. And here's the truth being told by Julian Assange, and they don't want to know. And then lies told by the media. How much should one criticize the press? You
A
know,
lot.
the journalists.
A lot.
Okay, but I think yes, exactly, a lot, because are they cowardly, or do they
Yes.
fear they lose their jobs? Well, that's really a form of, well, a lack of courage anyway.
Getting back to
And,
the arrest,
so forth.
though.
Yeah, sure.
Getting back to the arrest.
Sure. Yeah.
It was essentially a kidnapping, wasn't it? A kidnapping from the streets outside of Magistrate Court, where it was in full view of the media.
Yeah.
So that was what we call, if you're a soccer person, an own goal. And you can tell I'm not a soccer person. It's an own goal for the cops, wasn't it?
Yeah, it is definitely, as I say, there.
Because he's been in the media everywhere.
Yeah.
Even his local newspaper had him in there today.
Also, yes.
Took advantage of your arrest, Eric, for sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
Glad to be used. Right, Eric?
Well, when they don't even report on the
Yeah,
Assange
glad
court
to be
case.
used. Yeah, of course, yes.
Yeah, I know Eric's happy to
Yeah.
throw down his. He wants to get arrested for Assange, don't you?
Because this way we do have a voice, however seldom it happens, but they were bound to report what happened and our reasons for being there and how we felt that what they're doing to one person, they'll be doing to others later on.
He'll be us next.
And indeed, that's what happened. We shouldn't let it happen. We often
Jill can
say-
explain because Jill was there as well. Now, Jill was trying to get into the public gallery of the court when police came and tried to countermand the situation.
Mm.
So let Jill say that part of the story, and she can explain what they did with you in a little back room in the courthouse as well.
Yeah.
Well, we had gotten there early to get in line for going in to observe the court, which we're allowed to do, even though it was locked down here. So we're able to go in and observe the court. And of course, you have to get in the line. So I was number 8 in the line, I think. So when they finally allowed people to go in, I was pretty much next in line. And they said, okay, we'll move over to the side of the door because they were letting press people in and others. So we waited where they told us to wait, and little by little the police started arriving because they hadn't been there before. So they started arriving, and then suddenly they start questioning everybody in line, and little by little people start getting scared, and they must have got 20 people out of the queue just in 10 minutes by scaring people. So I stayed there and of course stood my ground with them and told them it was our legal right to go and observe the court, and we'd been told by the court to wait there, so I wasn't going. And they keep threatening with lockdown and you could be arrested and fined, and they have all these computers out and 5 of them standing around me asking me for my name and address, and I said, for standing in a line to get into court. Yes, you're breaking the coronavirus lockdown rules and regulations. And I said, but what about my right to go in? There's already 7 people that have gone in. So it continued like that. I got rid of one, and then another team shows up, and then I get rid of them, and then another team shows up. 3 times this happened. And thank God, all of the independent media guys are there filming it. So, you know, they can't go ahead and put the handcuffs on me when I've said I'm there. But at this point, there was only me left. And then two other people joined the line behind me. And another of our group came and joined. So we had four. And so at that point, they kept getting the man to come to the door and trying to harass him to say, right, the court, yeah, he's a court employee.
official, yeah.
So he's supposed to manage the door, who goes in and who doesn't go in. So he's basically saying to me about, well, there's no room now, but you know, you can wait at the side there. So she's like, the policewoman, okay, well, now you heard him. There's no room, go. So I said to him, well, will we be able to go in shortly? And he said, yes, maybe. And so then the woman's still saying, see, he told you there's no room. You have to go home now. And so the guy behind me said, that's not what he said at all. He just said in plain English that basically you can go in if someone else comes out, and you're welcome to wait there. So the police are trying to coerce them all the time to say what they want them to say, which is send them home. And I kept pointing out to them, you know, it's illegal for the police to be inside the courtroom. Or sorry, to be inside the courthouse building, trying to control and tell people what to do. There's a very important separation between the justice system and the police.
They're
and
obstructing open
yeah,
justice.
you're obstructing justice here. So then they all stepped out of the doorway and came outside the court building and stood outside because they knew what I was saying was right. And then I said to them, you know, you've all taken an oath as a police officer to protect our human rights, but yet you're trying to deny us our own right to go in there, and you're trying to obstruct justice. What is going on here? Shame on you. And of course, I did some shaming and basically got to stay there. So then I had to move away from the front door a bit. And then we stood on some press ladders because the guys were moving up in the front, getting ready for interviews. So while we were standing on the press ladders to hide from the police, basically, so we were pretending we were press, and we noticed there was a scuffle going on next to us. And so I looked over the heads of the people, and we saw it's Eric. So I came down off the ladder with the others, and the police are basically pulling him in two different directions. One's got one arm and another's pulling the other arm, and Eric is in the braced position. It was fantastic. He had his fist in the air and his one foot was bent, his one leg was forwards bent, and he had braced pushing off his back leg.
He was not going willingly.
Oh no, he was definitely being defiant. So I got my phone out and started filming, and it was really bad because all the mainstream media were there. They turned around and looked at him and then turned back and totally ignored him and pointed their cameras to the exit of the building where they were expecting somebody was going to come out and make this announcement. So then all the independent guys started coming over because they saw what was going on. So they were filming the whole thing. But these guys from the, you know, the big, mainstream media places weren't even interested until it started getting juicier. Of course, then, everybody's all ears. But it was just me and a couple other guys filming, and a couple people were saying things like, "What are you doing to him?" And it was just this kind of push and shove thing that was going on with them. And Eric wasn't moving. And I started filming them. And then they wanted me to get the camera out of their face, all that sort of thing. Stop filming, you'd get the camera out of my face, and then they call for backup. I mean, there's like not even 20 of us left at that point. And literally there were counted either 30 or 40 police vans were called. And each of those police vans had 9 police in them. For us, 20 protesters there at the most.
This sounds incredibly familiar. We were when we were in DC. There were like 30 activists that were holding a force the vote protest. At the Capitol, at the Rayburn House building. Same police that were used 2 days later for the insurrection. Same cops. there were 30 or 40 of us on the steps of the Rayburn House building. The cup to maybe 3-1 for a performative protest to ask politicians to vote for the thing that they ran on.
Yeah.
That's what that was.
Simple as.
And there were 2 to 3 times more cops there than there were 48 hours later when
For a coup.
for a
For the coup. The big coup. Was that a Russian coup?
you know what? I was there. I was on the ground for that. To me,
You were wearing your horns and you had your face painted. Yeah.
Animal skins, I think.
you know what? I'm not going to do it on camera, but I can prove that those are not my tattoos.
Listen, I know because you used to go to medieval fairs, didn't you, in your younger days?
I was an employee at Renaissance festivals. Yes, I was.
I remember Renaissance
So,
Fair
yeah.
in Chicago suburbs.
I didn't do that one, Jill. But I was in. I did Arizona, 2 in Texas, Colorado, Tuxedo Park, New York, Minnesota, North Carolina, or Maryland.
This was the tour of Renaissance fairs.
You followed the weather. They're like 8 months, or not 8 months. They're 8 weeks apart, right? Some of them overlap. There's over 30 permanent fair sites in the U.S. So there's like a circuit that you have
Were
year
you
round, and then you.
At there, or were you attending?
Oh no, I worked. I've never
You
been to
were.
a Renaissance festival as a patron.
Oh, well,
I had
that's what I
never
was
been to
asking.
one. I'd never been to one period before I was snuck into one as an employee.
Okay.
And I
Now
literally
I
mean that. I had to hide in the back of a truck with blankets over me to get snuck into the campground by someone who had worked for them for like 12 years, who then turned around and was like, oh yeah, this dude's okay. No, we're going to go get him a job now. I promise.
That medieval woke tramp, I can't remember his name. You got it on YouTube. That's the best tape. One of the funniest things I've ever
Oh,
seen.
my buddy Rook. That's a character that he plays called Skidmark.
Skidmark.
Yeah, he's the mud beggar.
Yeah.
The Mud Show is a comedy bit, like in a bunch of different Renaissance festivals, and it's all like, yeah, no, that's great. It is. And look, man, Rook McPherson, if you're watching, I love you, brother. Call me.
You're famous.
I haven't had the opportunity to bust your balls in like 6 months, so let's do that.
You got to drop that link in the chat. Yeah.
I'll go find that. I will.
Hilarious. It is
I
so
just think it's
hilarious.
hilarious that I have a note that says Skidmark Mud Beggar.
Same person?
Oh,
Do you not remember that episode, Kendra?
No.
My buddy Rook came by. He called himself
Yeah.
like the Irish Wolverine and shit. It was.
I missed it.
It's funny.
funny.
You should
Funny.
definitely watch it. It's
Yeah,
definitely
that's
a
a
must
show.
watch.
I will.
No question. But yeah, Steve, I think we just found your new Halloween costume. You get to be the horny guy from the coup.
You got to be the horny guy.
Halloween.
I bet there's lots of those this Halloween.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, there will be. I'll tell you.
No,
They'll
I
be
don't
like
want to
Holly
do that.
Esther
I
at
don't.
Halloween.
I don't want the same Halloween costume as everybody.
I
Tim
get it.
Dillon already had a hat made and already had somebody paint his face, and I can't compete with that.
No.
I don't have that kind of budget. Are you kidding me? No, let's not do that. Let's not. No, I'll come up with something. I promise. But,
Yeah, I bet I can rock that one.
Somehow, I don't see billing me as the horny guy is going to like. I don't know, man. I don't know how that's gonna work.
All
It would be
audiences.
fun for me.
Isn't there like a guy in a red t-shirt pushing a trolley around or pushing something or clearing something that was kind of a relaxed guy in a red t-shirt, but he was memorable? That could be a Halloween costume.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's going to be a lot of
Examine the footage
insurrectionists.
and go back. Yeah. I think that there are going to be a lot of things to choose from in that group.
I have a feeling that as the year progresses, we're going
There's
to
gonna
find
be a lot.
more and more absurdities that we can sort of like capture onto it. Yeah, I don't see it getting any less absurd. we're
Well,
already.
maybe that's a good thing, isn't it? Because, you know, we're finding that the standard protests aren't working now. And Allison and I were talking yesterday about the protests at the Democratic National Convention of '68 in our hometown and in Chicago. And basically, Allison was reminding me like about the court antics, you know, what they did in court. And
Oh,
it was
Chicago
fantastic.
7, yeah.
Yeah, the Chicago 7, how they had like, I forget what the suits were on the outside, and then they peeled off these clown suits or something, and it was Chicago Police Department uniforms underneath it. And that was kind of their whole thing. I mean, Abby Hoffman and Rubin and all the others.
Tom Hayden.
Yeah, Tom Hayden. That's right. They went for the absurdist, because when the regular protests are not working and they make no sense because the police make no sense, and all they're interested in is brutality and punching and handcuffs and all the rest of them, you can really do something, I think, with ridiculous, whether
Well,
it's streaking or, you know, something crazy that totally throws them off balance and challenges their form, their habit. You know, they don't know how to respond.
It's back to that era now, isn't it, Eric? Because the judge was called the Nazi all the time, and we're calling the cops Nazis too, aren't we? All the time. You did, Eric.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's coming back now because, you know, in that trial, which you just said you remembered, the Chicago 7 trial.
Oh,
yeah,
I wasn't.
How many times did they call the judge a Nazi?
Yeah, quite a lot. I mean, well, I think it was, I don't know if it was Bobby Seale, one of the Black Panthers, but he was handcuffed. And
yeah, it was Bobby
tied
Seale.
to a chair. It was Bobby Seale, yeah. I mean, you know, he said, well, I thought
In
slavery
the
had been
courtroom.
abolished, you
That's
know,
right.
you're reverting to that again. So it shows when you're desperate, you do resort to, I think one should call it a form of fascism. If you think that's an exaggeration, I always say that when I was in the States, a guy came over to us who was from Germany. The camp had been liberated by the Allies, and he was living in the United States. And he said to us regarding the McCarthy Committee, you know, we must never forget that. It's a form of fascism, certainly. And he said that himself. I've seen for the second time the naked face of fascism. And I think one has to be aware that fascism, perhaps a reserve weapon not often used. I mean, they're more sophisticated than the Nazis, but we have to understand that something like this is happening, and we've got to guard against it, you know.
Yeah, you did actually say that to the police as well, didn't you?
I said that also, yeah, of course. I said, you don't realize that. And they said, we're taking orders. I said, yeah, that's what the Nazis said too, you're taking orders. You know, we also say freedom is everyone's business. I know that you're given an order, to some extent, you know, you will feel that there's something, but you will also question it. I mean, I always remember the Chinese people where they said that we've abolished all ranks, but we do have commanders, because we can't take a vote if we're in a wartime situation as to whether or not we should take this hill or not, you know. Let's see who the majority are. So the Chinese comrades said, okay, well, we have commanders. But at the same time, in the evening, because most battles take during the day, take place then, the soldiers will criticize their officers and don't repeat the same mistake again. So I think that we must find out what people say. We're not just ciphers in that struggle. I know that there was a saying in the United States when I was there in the Army that don't think, let the Army do your thinking for you. I said, that's a very dangerous concept, you know. I mean, they can be wrong, of course. As I said, in an emergency, okay, there's no time to vote.
It seemed
But
like they
later
actually
on,
did
you have
follow
to be
that.
quite sure that there's really a people's war. And I think they haven't understood that in the West, you know.
I do think it's.
We are learning, and okay, I hope others learn from our experience too. You know, it's happened to us, it'll happen to them next.
I do think it's time to incorporate more, I don't know, I guess theatrics or absurdum into what we're doing. I was trying to pitch this like a year ago. I thought I wanted to do like mock trials and shit on the streets
Yes.
of DC, and Gordon Dimmick laughed at me, and it made me cry like a little bitch. And I
Clown laugh.
I put that.
right?
I buried that idea way deep down, and now I'm bringing it back.
Bring it back. Yes.
The same thing happened to me, because when the trial was going to be on in May, in summertime at Woolwich Crown Court, it was going to be at Belmarsh. We were going to do a big tent embassy with tents, circus tents, and everything. It was going to be an extravaganza. So we had to sort of, the COVID thing happened, and so we had to sort of modify that position. But I did hire a contortionist, and I hired a hula hooper, and I'm a
hula hooper.
Excuse me. I went round to shops and bought costumes for everybody to dress in. They did have a drumming act there, so we dressed up in the circus costumes, and I got the same reaction, Steve, from people. I even saw comments.
Me.
No,
I think it's genius.
I even saw comments on Twitter saying, what do these people think this is, a circus?
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You can get it,
Yes, we do.
So, we had the same, you should have come over here then. But I would have been COVID then.
I'm not allowed to leave the country, Allie, or I would already be gone.
Okay.
Straight the fuck up. I'd be out. No, y'all wouldn't even, there would be no slow news day. There is none of that. I would be gone. Vanished, living fucking naked in a hut in the fucking middle of nowhere, dude.
Yeah.
But no, I can't leave the country. So now y'all are stuck with me, and we're gonna do some fucking activism.
I think that's what we're going to do, unless we're going to do it with theatrical style. And now let's get Rook involved. And
the first week in September, during Julian's trial, when we were here, I think it was the first week, we did a march where we had like 7 or 8 people dressed up in Guantanamo Bay costumes.
Mm-hmm.
And I had typed it up to the police that there was going to be a lot more of us there. So we had 7 or 8 people in Gitmo costumes with a little wagon, right, that was full of megaphones. And 5 of the people had megaphones. One of them was on repeat, chanting like no extradition, free Julian Assange and all that. And we got a police escort from the CNN building in the streets to Google, which is right across the street from, I think, the Department of Homeland Security. And then we went around the block with that same escort, CBS, Fox News, C-SPAN, and a couple other news studios, where we proceeded in a pouring downpour, like flood-like conditions, with speeches outside. So that was one of the fun things. And then this last time in January, we went outside of the embassy, the British embassy here in DC, at midnight and caused the police to make more noise than we did. But we had a permit that said, hey, we're bringing megaphones at midnight. We get there, they tell us, hey, you guys can't use a megaphone at midnight. You can have it, but you can't use it. So I'm like, whatever. I put it over my shoulder. I walk around the corner from the embassy parking lot to the residence and just pull out my megaphone at midnight and start yelling at the residents of the British embassy. And then 10 cop cars come pulling around the corner, lights flashing, making more spectacle than I was. And then we just proceeded to yell at the building. But that was
good action. I like that.
Yeah, it was a good time.
That's brilliant.
I was wondering too if you guys could keep going with your story of what happened. I think that we're talking.
Well, yeah, it was there are some funny bits to it, and a bit of brutality and all that stuff thrown in as well.
The kidnapping story, you say? Yeah. Well, after you got kidnapped, Eric, what happened? Eric, when you got kidnapped, what happened?
Yeah.
After that,
of course, they took me to a room. So none of the demonstrators were there, and then they put me in a car. I thought they were going to arrest him. So said, you're being arrested. Of course, the only place they take you to would be a police station. But they didn't. I didn't react because I was in the car and I didn't know the streets well enough, new buildings and so forth. But eventually it dawned on me that they were going in the direction of my home. So that's what they did. They took me to where I lived. Of course, I didn't give my address or my name, but they have ways of finding out. So that was it. But they could, of course, say to the public, well, you see, we didn't arrest him. We just took him to his place. I was going to come out. I think, I can't remember now if I went out immediately.
No, I rang you.
Oh,
Remember,
yeah.
I called you
Thank
because
you
we saw you in the car being kidnapped.
Oh, yeah.
So I rang you about 10 minutes later, and there you were at home. He goes, so where are we going now? Eric says on the phone. He goes, so where's the next one? Like straight away, come back out again.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay. Otherwise, we would have gone out. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So you see, the problem we have naturally is that the police get all the publicity for the very dubious point of view, but in fact, there are many people who are realizing that an injustice has to be done because they see it being done. You know, it's being said that justice has to be done, seen to be done. It's also true of injustice. People don't know that well enough because it's not getting publicity. But once it is, then they'll know. So I think our protests are well worthwhile, and it's wonderful to have these two great sisters here. I would say women hold up half the sky, and we've got to think of Black people in Africa, Asia, Latin America, the Caribbean, and
also
all these struggles nationally and internationally are important.
And also we're wearing our Solidarity Stella
Oh, yeah, of course. Well, we're all, yeah.
We lost your video.
Stella.
Oh.
Yeah, Julian Assange's partner, and it's wonderful to have you. I mean, of course, you're a person who are better known than us here, but
we totally lost your carrot.
Oh, there it is. Now you're back.
We're wearing a Solidarity Stella t-shirt.
Solidarity is great. Yeah.
And Eric's got his on too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Team Assange t-shirts.
Yeah.
So yeah, we just wore these for you, and also we dressed the set for you guys. Love not bombs, baby. And we want to thank Let Me Look TV for the use of their studio tonight because Drew's working with us now. So we're going to start a podcasting career too, you guys. It's not competition. Nice. We are brothers and sisters across the pond, and we're going to do our circus Assange acts. Broadcasting maybe. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, our activism, you know, actions on the street.
We definitely need more voices. There is no competition. That's a great idea. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, we got to start getting creative, you know?
Yeah, cooperation rather than competition.
Yeah, no, this is networking, and this is building like a cohesive team. This isn't competing for clicks or ad revenue. It's not like they're going to let us monetize anyway.
Didn't they just remove everyone from Facebook anyway? So
my God, man! I know on the other channel, because we don't try to monetize any of the vigils or any of that shit anyway. But like on Slow News Day, as soon as I post a video, it gets demonetized like immediately. And the thought of like doing this for money or having competition is so foreign to me. Like I can't wrap my head around it in general. Like it amazes me if people donate to the show like through super chats or Rockfin tips or something like that. Like that's absolutely freaking amazing and unexpected. But like at no point we can't compete with each other because we have the same goals, right? That's not competition. That's a partnership.
No. Yeah. We can, dialogue and exchange ideas and plans and things like that, you know, in between, and share with each other what we're doing, you know, like because it's been awesome the brotherhood that we've sisterhood that we've built since we've been doing the court protests, and you guys are there doing your DC protests or doing your Action for Assange, you know, like as many shows as you do, incredible. Our crew just loves it, you know. We just love you guys. We want to thank you so much for having us on so many times and boosting us. It's, you know, it does help to keep us going, you know.
Well, there's different trains of thoughts about what's going to be most effective and where the concentration needs to be, and I do feel like if there's not an overwhelming on the ground presence in the UK, in London,
I agree,
we can't be effective. But we also have to have the same presence here in the States, and we have to constantly educate people, because if we don't have a overwhelming human presence humiliating the people in power, we're not going to get what we want. We're not, kids. You can't ask these fucks to do the right thing.
And you
No.
always have to have a resistance. You can't be seen to be accepting it. We have to fight back, even if we just go out for a 5-minute protest and hold up the sign. I mean, on Wednesday, I just went out. There were just 3 of us, and we just went out to Australia House, took some pictures holding up signs. We went to Downing Street and stood in front of the gates holding up signs, Parliament Square and Westminster Bridge, just so the police see us, that we're out, and they know that we're breaking the COVID rules, but they can't prove that we're protesting because we have a small sign that we then put away into our bag and we walk away in a group of 2. So legally, you can't be arrested. If you were gathering and standing there, you just have to find your way around the laws. I wanted to go out today or tomorrow to do a cycle protest, because if you carry your signs and wear a Gitmo suit on the bicycle, for example, then you're exercising. So again, you can't be arrested for protesting. So we have done it already and it works, and they didn't stop us. So I think we have to find these kind of things. But I mean, just in terms of, what you were saying about the show and not competition and everything, I think we all have to support each other mentally and nurture each other and find the humor and keep the humor. And make sure we keep it fun, because we don't want everybody to get beaten down, and identify with people that have been beaten. We haven't. We're smarter than them. If I told you some of the conversations I've had with the police in the police vans, we're very dirty, by the way, and you go to sit down and there's like broken up bags of potato chips crushed up on the seats that they want you to sit on in the police van. It's really dirty, and they don't
get COVID.
Crushed donuts.
Yeah, and they're not good conversationalists either.
Oh, you're never getting anywhere near my work truck, Jill. Ever.
She ain't in LA, obviously.
I used to live in LA.
I know, I'm joking.
Crap.
But it doesn't take that much to outsmart these guys, really.
No.
I mean, when they come up to me, because I think some of them know me, and I always try and talk circles around them to ask them lots of questions and kind of defeat them with the conversation. And so the guys that came up to me, because I got arrested when I was with Eric, trying to film Eric. So they sent backup and they put 2 of them on me. And the first one comes up to me and says, it doesn't look like you're standing here. And I'm like, what?
I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to repeat that because I'm not nearly drunk enough to have this conversation.
I know. So I said, I am standing here.
Oh my God.
But he's like, oh, I thought that, and he started fumbling. And I said, I'm standing here because the court told me to stand here. And that's my friend being arrested. So I'm filming. And then he looked at me and he said, it doesn't look like you're filming. And I said, I'm holding a camera filming. What is it about this that's confusing? So, then his friend saw that he's in trouble. So his friend comes and stands in front of me and just like 2 inches from me, blocks me from filming Eric. And he said, you be home. And I said, no, I don't. I'd be here. Like, what do you mean?
Have we gone back to plantation days or something?
Well, he was Scottish. Oh. And I think he meant like, you be home. Like I'm supposed to go home now. It's something like that.
Okay.
I know. So anyways, then I said to him, well, you have to, I'm standing here. You can't arrest me. Oh, yes, we're going to arrest you now. You've been asked to leave at least 3 or 4 times. You have to go now. And I said, no. The man at the door told me to stay here. It's my right to stay. So then he said he's going to go check and see if that's true. Well, I saw he didn't go check. And then the dim guy starts to talk to me again and again, make really bad conversation. So the other guy pretends he goes to the door to ask. And then he turns around and says, well, I've asked him and it's not true. And I said, no, you didn't.
And by the way, they got no titties left either.
I grabbed them both and I said, let's go talk to him and I'll go with you and he'll tell you. And that's when they put the handcuffs on me. They wouldn't go. So they just said, you're arrested. And I said, hang on, you have to give me a warning first. And he said, well, you've been warned already. And I said, no, you haven't given me the official warning saying if you don't go now, you're going to be fined. And then I said, but I shouldn't be fined because I'm here exercising my legal right to go into the court. And then they just put the handcuffs on me. And so then I held the hands over the head and said, look, I'm being arrested, because you have to shout as loud as you can when they take you away, because either you resist like Eric and force them to drag you. But then I thought, what if they damage me, you know, and then I'm like, my shoulders ripped out and I can't work anymore or something. That would be a problem. So I thought, well, if I shout and everybody's filming, you know, you get more exposure and everybody learns something.
Yeah, they
so
watch.
yeah, and so, you know, that's it. But so I got dragged away, taken to the van. And basically, once we get inside, they close the door of the van, and, you know, then they start to ask you all the questions. So they start asking the questions, and I had to take have the handcuffs taken off so I could get my ID out. So I got my phone out, and I saw, you know, playing Eric's video that I had filmed, and I looked on Twitter, and I saw somebody had already shared one of the films, and I said, oh, that was a bit of an own goal, wasn't it? I said, it's already got that many views. I said, in the next hour, it'll be over 200,000, which means by the end of the day, he's got to be up around somewhere, 1 million internationally, wouldn't you think? And I said, oh, look, you're in the picture here. Are you going to show that to your kids tonight and say, oh, this is what daddy does. He arrests 92-year-old men and drags women away in handcuffs at work. So then they were like, whoa, you know, not saying anything. And I said to them about their oath and, you know, that they break their oath because they weren't protecting my human rights there. And so then they said to me, okay, well, we're going to let you go and just give you a fine, which means I got a 400-pound fine. And I still have to go to court to fight it because I was exercising my legal rights. So we've got some groups here now. Luckily, some lawyers are coming forwards, and Allison has talked to a few different groups as well that are saying that they're going to help us to fight these, what they call them, fixed penalty notices. It's like a parking ticket. You know, they've made it some kind of legal thing.
They're going to fight him in court.
Yeah.
This ain't the end of it.
No, so, you know, but it's really inconvenient to go through that. And because I've been arrested twice before, you know, you've got all these legal things to deal with the courts, and you have to go for one date just to say not guilty. And then they give you another date further down the road, and then they have to exchange evidence, and you have to show your evidence and the police show their evidence. And then you decide whether they're going to drop the charges or whether they want to get you. And you know, it takes a lot of time and a lot of energy. And, you know, like Allison was saying, you know, if we get arrested each time, we're just going to be exhausted. You know, you don't really want to go down that route.
They do harvest your energy. Police go out to harvest people's energy. So you've got to make sure, that's what I think anyway, that you've got to make sure that you use it wisely and conserve your energy. And that's why I like the circus idea.
Yes, I agree.
Stunning acts of, you know, insubordination, absolute, you know, making a mockery of the system, like the Chicago 7 trial people did all those years ago, because they just did a big up you to the court. And that's what, you know, really, if we would have had a chance to get into that courtroom, a lot of people probably would have done, but they just had to bring the COVID thing in so that Julian's trial was hardly attended by anybody.
Oh, I was completely ready to turn this into an absolute farce. And I still am. Yeah. I still am, because, I mean, this is where we're at right now, especially now that we've got a Joe Biden, really Kamala Harris administration, with everything that seems to be waiting in the wings to be rolled out, including all new domestic terror legislation and a sort of AI-driven techno health tyranny that seems to be heading our way. You have to, in my opinion, you have to make a mockery of it. You
They deserve
have to
nothing.
highlight just how ridiculous on its face the ask from the state is. And the
But
state is
that's
asking you.
authoritarianism to stop people having this respect for authority. The ridicule, as you say, making them look like total asses and making fun of them. You have to let people know it's okay to do that. They can't arrest you for ridiculing them, and stop this feeling of authority. Don't be authoritarian.
We need to turn around all of the supporters, because a lot of people, it seemed to me, not you guys, but a lot of people in campaigning seem to think if everything's very po-faced, if we behave ourselves so nicely, if we do everything right, then they'll grant him bail, then they'll pardon him, then they'll do this, then they'll do that, and all of the hopes and the tweets and everything. And let's face it, I got on the pardon Assange bandwagon because there was no point in not doing it. Give it a go. Yeah, totally. That's what you guys said as well. Yeah.
We went to Trump events and passed out
everybody.
flyers at that entire Stop the Steal event, and the night before did the same thing. Like, I educated the guy in the buffalo horns that stormed the Capitol, Julian Assange's situation, 12 hours before it happened, just because I was in proximity to him at an event that he was
really met the man himself.
Yeah.
Wow.
Andrew, you are actually much taller than what
that
you
guy's
look
a
like.
fucking dolt.
Yeah, no, but so one of the other things, and this is something that I've talked about with Steve, that I talked about on the Vigil once. I notified 210 cities across the U.S. that there was going to be protests happening. I did this on January 3rd, and I did it again, telling them that there was going to be protests on the 17th. 210 different cities. I was sending it out to groups behind the scenes. Right-wing groups, left-wing groups, because those are largely irrelevant at this point as far as ideology goes, just to build support. And this is something that makes me nervous to do as an individual, because I literally put my name and phone number on an email that goes to 210 police chiefs across the country. But that's something that I'm going to be continuing, and I'm going to aim to do it the last Sunday of every single month, to have a 2-hour window in 210 cities for people to legally, I'll go through all the processes to show up and show support for Julian at Department of Justice locations across the country.
Fantastic.
So that's something that I'm looking forward to continuing to build. But it's terrifying. Like, thinking about having to do it is absolutely horrifying. But once it's done, it's like, got him again.
Yeah. Because I only see you sitting down behind the camera. When you were standing up at the Capitol, you look quite tall. Is that true?
Yeah, I'm about 6 foot, depending on how tall my shoes are.
Yeah, you were sitting there behind the desk. I was like, Andrew, look at him. Oh my God, commanding presence. But an amazing job you're doing there. Incredible. It's like, and missed you too with your letter campaign. That's something that we can get on the back of as well, and start doing, doing the letters.
That's very easy. I think if you give people easy ways to involve themselves, because a lot of people are busy. They have a couple different jobs and kids and families and bills. But if you give them something easy that they can do, everybody can write a letter. That's just one way that they can get involved.
Yeah. No, it's brilliant. It's great. We just need to keep hammering them. They had a speech by David Davis. He's a conservative parliamentarian here, one of Julian's supporters that has come out and made statements in the past. He was supposed to have a Westminster Hall debate because of the COVID. I think everything's because of COVID now, isn't it? So just use that.
Every day as well.
Because of COVID, they couldn't have it properly, but he did ask questions in the House. And then because it's sub judice, because there's an appeal in Julian's case, he couldn't speak too much about the actual case. But what he did say in Parliament was that he was, what did he say? It's just gone out of my head now. David Davis, what did he say in Parliament? Remember?
Recently?
Just last week.
I think it was about the just basically the unequalness between the extradition treaty.
Yeah, extradition treaty. So that was leading me on to the point. That's what I want to campaign on, the extradition treaties. Okay, so let's just imagine that Julian wins the America loses the appeal. Yeah. and Julian wins on the extradition grounds only, he's always going to be vulnerable and, under threat. Even if he wins their cross appeal, all of the scenarios and permutations, it is not acceptable that USA has a universal reach to any country in the world on journalists reporting and doing their jobs. So
I have an article about him talking about that if you want me to put it on the screen.
Real quick, the whole time I've been the main point that I've been trying to drive home to people is that it is insane that any country is trying to gain international jurisdiction over the press. It doesn't matter what fucking country it is. If a singular country has international jurisdiction over the press, that is lights out for the fucking truth, no matter what truth you're trying to get out there.
It is a no-brainer to politically lobby for these extradition treaties to be ceased with, for the USA not to have universal jurisdiction, and everyone in their own home countries should be campaigning to stop it now, especially in Australia as well, and we just go to the top shelf, start campaigning on that. Well, America's going to get scared of that. I mean, the types of people that, we're getting our diplomatic feathers ruffled now because previously all these people just went along with it. They didn't know what we were doing until the Assange case came up. So I think we should just keep bang, 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 bang on the doors of Parliament, every country in the world, to try to stop these stupid, this stupid arrangements that they're trying to set the precedent for. That's what the footing that I want to. I mean, other people were saying there's a girl that wrote a book. I'm not going to mention too much about it. They want to sort of develop arguments to how to sort of pull the book down, but it's based on all spurious grounds anyway. So my view on that is don't mention the book.
Exactly.
And campaign on the on these other areas, like you're saying. Need to get on to Joe Biden, need to get the extradition treaties, cut asunder, and we need to become medieval tramps.
Yes. And worse.
And worse.
And I think you're right too, Ali. Shaming works. Like if we can shame Joe Biden and link him to Donald Trump's legacy through this. And again, I'm fully aware that this is an Obama thing. It started under Obama. But if we can use Donald Trump and his legacy to make Joe Biden look bad, that is something we should absolutely be doing.
Is it possible that Trump could make Biden look bad?
Yeah.
Biden's
possible.
Biden's bad, kind of. You don't know which is worse, really, do you?
I think Biden was worse.
I think Biden is
Biden's
much worse, and I think that Kamala Harris is much worse
as well, because they can do more damage. Trump was out front; you knew what was going on, but Biden's the sneak attack. Everybody thinks they're safe with him now, and it's all going on behind the shadows while he's
and the media will run cover for him. The media will cover up for all of his bullshit. And so that's what's terrifying to me is that your MSNBC, if you watch the coverage just in the past 3 days since he's taken office, they could not be more ridiculous. They are fawning over this man.
What about the arms reaching out, those lights, the lights from the Capitol, from the grand, like shrine of the Capitol?
How fucking dystopian was that shit, dude?
And how about the horrible dresses those women were wearing? One was powder blue and one was purple with matching masks and gloves.
Matching masks that weren't very well sewn, I didn't think either, Joel.
It's terrible.
It's like it's like they pulled the worst paranoid fantasy out of Franz Kafka's head and said, here's your government. Here you go in the flesh. Here is nightmare made real.
Yes.
And people go, oh, okay, well, it's not the orange man, so I guess it's all right. And like,
all these singers that sang there, who was singing? Was it Lady Gaga?
Yes, Lady Gaga with her Hunger Games bird.
Volunteered to sing. Prince wouldn't have sung for this.
Most of them have to have been have anything to do with it.
You just went up like 18 points in my book with that one comment right there.
I was going to say before that, when you were talking about your protest in the the rain. And I said, but that's the greatest glory. Prince did the best halftime show ever in the history of the Super Bowls.
Yeah, because it wasn't fucking Illuminati power. Jesus Christ.
He was soaked to the bone and did this blistering show. He never fell over. There was puddles of water all over that stage. He did his best job in the rain. And if you ask anybody what was the best halftime Super Bowl performance, it was Prince in the rain.
Yo, dude, look, I think people should have to listen to Prince for like 6 months because it'll, if for no other reason, then it'll give you a little bit more soul, and it'll probably make you a better lover. It probably will. It probably will. I can't guarantee that, but
if you're playing it while you're actually loving, then yes, it will.
Yeah, go do that thing.
Oh boy, how did we get started on that?
Let me go back to journalism. One thing I read about last night, and I was absolutely shocked. The BBC actually said that they weren't going to show and highlight and talk about all of Boris Johnson's lies because they said it will undermine the confidence in the government. I mean, can you even believe that they said? Look it up. It came out a couple of days ago or yesterday. I saw it. And they actually said they don't want to run all of or highlight all of Boris' mistakes because the country will lose confidence in the government. So they're basically censoring and just making him look good. And even that's not working. He still looks bad, and we still know about the mistake. That's them trying their best to keep the lies and the obvious stuff out of their newsreels.
Well, that's something that the UK courts put forward on the US's behalf during Julian's trial. When they were discussing the torture of, I hope I pronounced his name right, but Khalid al-Masri.
Yep.
The prosecution, right? James Lewis, QC, like Queen's Court Counsel, whatever that C stands for. A British prosecutor operating on behalf of the U.S. government said, well, you can't reveal torture because people will get upset. Like they argued that in court as the official position of the U.S. through the U.K.
Yeah, he's a liar, that guy. He lied to the court as well.
You don't say.
Yes.
I have a question for everybody. Like, what do you think of this idea? I mean, just because it's so absurd, you know, so many things. And I'm just wondering that a lot of people aren't, you know, picking up on that, even the people who are doubling down, and that we're dealing with like people that are just, they're afraid, you know, the idea of this whole system being so corrupt. And you know what I mean? It's like in almost like I don't know what to do. I can't think, nope, I don't want to think about it. I got my stuff, you know, and it's like, I'm just wondering how we can, you know what I mean? What could we do? We need something in our campaigns that like addresses that in some way.
I think Eric had the best solution for that when he said, was it Thomas Jefferson that said there has to be a revolution every generation?
Every generation.
Yeah.
It just has to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that.
We're overdue.
Yeah, co-author of the Declaration of Independence. His great ally was an Englishman who went to the United States, Tom Paine. It's so important to read what Tom Paine said supporting the revolution in the United States. So, of course, he didn't think in terms of the British Empire being superior to other people. This is what a point made just a while ago. And neither the Nazis after that. You know, the Third Reich would last for 1,000 years. So when they say the American century, it doesn't make sense. It's the denial of equality, you know. And this is made very clear by some great thinkers at the time. And I was thinking, I think of mind, but I also think of hearts. You know, they have to work together, you know, the love of the people, wanting what is best for them. And it's rational, certainly, because we've got to make decency respectable. You know, we're told now the anti-hero and it's wonderful to have that. I said, no. I mean, you know, I think we've got to see people like Julian Assange and all the people who fought for freedom, you know, famous and unknown, the unsung heroes and heroines. We've got to see that they're the majority in the world. And we can't have, as I said, one people, one race, one ethnic group. Okay, white superior to black people. No, we would say Black Lives Matter. Yes, we've got to emphasize this all the time. Otherwise, if democracy means majority rule, well, the whites are the majority. But it was made a long time ago, the point, 2,500 years ago by Plato, when he argued against democracy. He said it can become the tyranny of the majority, where black people deny their rights because they're a minority, so the vote went against them. Well, yes, majority rule, but minority rights. We've got to emphasize this all the time. And we've got to understand that what happens to other people, we might be next. And,
so how do we make people more courageous then?
Exactly.
How do we make them?
What do they say? Courageous is
contagious.
Contagious, right?
Courage is contagious.
Yeah, I think it's true. We're afraid. People often ask this question, "Are you afraid?" And I said, "No." And I remember a wonderful song we had in the United States. Well, it's probably not well known. It's sung by Judy Collins in a documentary.
Sing it.
Says, "Freedom was it freedom is
bird
not
on a wing.
like a bird on the wing. It won't come down like the summer rain. Freedom is a hard-won thing. We've got to work for it, fight for it, sometimes die for it. And every generation's got to win it again. A generation in sociology is 30 years. Okay, 30 years and 20 years of that Jefferson mentioned. So yeah, we've got to understand what's happening. We live today. We don't live in the past, and it's no longer one country that is a threat. I think that Britain's remained, the British Empire, as a junior part of the United States. Maybe not so junior either, because it tends to be more intellectualizing about the reasons for us to go into Iraq. And, we've got to expose the thinking of a minority, of intellectuals. I mean, I'm not saying minority, of black people and women.
What you're doing now,
anyway.
What you are doing now, though, helps to make people more courageous, because part of your story is...
Yeah, that's why I accepted that, because otherwise we like to be modest,
And also part of your story is the bold things that you have done as well.
Yeah, go ahead, use me. Use me. For a good cause.
I am, for a good cause.
We shouldn't be afraid,
No. He went to Iraq as a human shield, and he went to Israel and stood in the doorway to guard Palestinian homes. Yeah, he went to Cuba and helped them against sanctions by working on farms.
They're all the it's not an American century. It's a century of all people, and it's not. They say a homeland of Jews. It's just, I know, highly controversial, but it has to be said. The truth is often controversial. What's happening in Palestine is wrong. And I'm saying this as a person of Jewish background. I'm not religious, but I said, no, it's wrong what you're doing. Whether you're Jews or Christians, or we know about slavery in Africa by Christians and so forth. So it's wrong, whoever does it. And there are good Germans and bad Germans, good Jews and bad Jews. So we're not being anti-Semitic. And incidentally, the Semitic people in Palestine or the Arabs, the native population.
Yeah, not the
Jews are Semitic, or many of them are not Semitic, So, but when we should have equality, but if on the question of Palestine, since I've broached the matter, I shouldn't dwell too long on that, because we're discussing other matters. But when people say the homeland of Jews is in Palestine, I said, no, the homeland of Jews is everywhere. The homeland of Christians is everywhere. The homeland of Muslims.
Well, it's not in the physical space is the whole point. The concept of a spiritual homeland has got to be in a spiritual space, not in a physical location. As soon as you put it in a physical location, people are going to fight over who was there first or who has a right to it. No, man, the spiritual plane exists no matter whether you believe in it or not. And your homeland is a concept of community.
Yeah.
A concept of belonging. It doesn't, again, as soon as you put it down, as soon as you give that an address, people are going to start killing each other over it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, all the Muslims who go to Mecca and all the Christians who go to Rome, Vatican City, and so all the Jews are going to go to Palestine, I understand in World War II. And there's a very controversial statement made by Ken Livingstone, which is correct. The Labour Party, Jeremy Corbyn, we had a wonderful opportunity to elect a better government. Well, unfortunately, it didn't happen, but I suppose it came fairly close. I don't know how close, but the statement of Ken Livingstone, remember, for which he was suspended, was that the Nazis, Hitler and the Nazis, and the Zionist leaders have something in common. Well, there's nothing wrong having something in common. Don't they both have noses in the middle of their faces? But what they did have in common, and of course for opposite reasons, the Nazis wanted to get all the Jews out of Europe or they'd kill them, but they didn't want the trouble of having to kill them because concentration camps are getting pretty full and gas ovens, I don't know how many they could kill. So when the Zionists came and said, we're going to go to Palestine, the Balfour Agreement of 1917, and to the shame of Britain for saying this. So maybe the British want to get rid of Jews too. But with the Zionist leaders, much as I'm against Zionism, because as I said a minute ago, the home of Jews should be everywhere. But at the same time, I understand they had a different agenda. The Zionist leaders were saying, we have to protect the fellow Jews, so leave Europe. Well, they could have said, leave Europe. Well, leave Germany and France occupied and the Netherlands and so forth. And they went into Spain against the Spanish Republic and supporting the fascist Franco. So, of course, but as I said, they have a different reason. But where the Zionists were wrong is that they chose a solution which was to the detriment of the native population of Palestine. This is where they went wrong. I understand the suffering of people, but then they should have been welcomed. And of course, Britain shouldn't be proud, and the United States perhaps to a lesser extent, but also they didn't accept many Jews either. They thought, well, we fought against fascism, but if they can go to Palestine, it's better. And they didn't think of what it would mean to the native population. We know that this is true of native populations everywhere. In the United States, do they think about the Native Americans, so-called Indians? Australia, do they think the Aborigines? And New Zealand, do they think of the Maori? And all these struggles have to be supported.
So it comes from a community, though, like what was Kendra was getting back to what Kendra was saying before. How do we encourage other people to be more bold, to come out and campaign with us? Why do people sit there, think it's okay to sit there and do nothing and just do their normal, boring daily routines? I mean, for God's sake, a lot of people are getting paid furlough, which is being paid for their jobs for not doing anything. And they seem to be quite happy to sit indoors and just play with their computers. I mean, they're doing activism.
The thing that actually got me going was Medea Benjamin actually did an interview and just asked, we need more people doing this. I can't do this forever. There needs to be more activists.
Yes.
And that's where I was like, okay, well, I guess I know what I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life.
But you see, the problem is, if you think about what Malcolm X said, the most dangerous man is the man who has nothing. Those are the people who make, like the Palestinians, they are totally up against the wall. It's no question. They have to fight and go to extreme measures. So their kind of activism is much more passionate, much more spirited, because they're up against the wall. The problem is you're in two countries where everybody thinks that they're well off. We're actually, most of us are probably living below the poverty level and food poor and all those kind of things that would qualify us for being in a very desperate situation, but we don't see ourselves that way. We think that we're going to be fine. It's just around the corner. This is a temporary thing. A lot of people will not identify with being in that position where they have to fight for their life. But that's what we have to do. That's what we have to be. If we don't have freedom, if we don't have a country that we feel safe and that we can be free and we can walk down the streets without being arrested, that we can say things, that we can be a journalist without being arrested. If we don't have that, we need to be in the streets fighting, because the question is, what's next? If they will take away all of our freedoms, but they haven't killed us yet, so you think you're safe, you've got to really adjust your barometer.
I'm ready to die for it.
Me
What you
too.
said before, Andrew, being inspired by Medea Benjamin, I just put in that I was inspired by Caitlin Johnston in Australia, who was a great journalist, writer on the subject. And I was sort of twiddling my thumbs thinking, what should I do for the better of the world? And of course, came across her writing on the Assange campaign. I was working on a coal mine campaign to stop a coal mine, but switched camps and came over here and devoted my life and spent my own money to do what I'm doing here. So most people would think that's a bit crazy, but I think it's really good for you to do it. And Eric has the point of view on this as well. It is actually good for your health to be an activist, isn't it?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Would you
I
elaborate on that?
I got dragged to a Free Mumia protest in 1989.
Oh.
Mumia Abu Jamal.
Right. Yeah, in Philadelphia. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was the first like real protest that I had ever been at. And I knew it was a real protest because the police were beating the crap out of unarmed people. That's how I knew. And like since it, and I mean, I was 11 at then, you know. But flash forward 10 years later, and I am getting my head split open by police in Seattle at the WTO protests. And that was when I decided that I was going to continue to make noise for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Good
awesome.
story.
Yeah.
I like that. You know, and that's how it happens. Something inspires you. I mean, my first action was, well, you know, it's hard to, it was like 68, 69 or so with the, well, first of all, with the protests and the police brutality. I was lucky I went to an inner city school. So we had very young teachers because it wasn't well paid. So the only teachers you got to teach there were ones that were just out of college. So luckily, all of my teachers were really liberal people that taught us about protest, and in our music classes we learned all the protest songs and learned the words and talked about it, and they told us all about what was going on with the police at the Democratic National Convention when the protests were going on in 68. And then when there was the concert for Bangladesh and there was all this starvation and poverty, you know, I was like, well, how can this be? You know, so I went on hunger hikes and I did things for that. And I just always wanted to be mayor of Chicago because I thought somebody has to do something about this.
Should be there in Chicago.
So I think
Hold up. How could
somebody
you look at the Daily Family and
Sorry?
be like, I want to get in on that corruption?
No, I knew that's why it had to go, because I knew I grew up in the inner city. I knew all sorts of people on my street that were in city jobs that just got the jobs for nothing. I knew loads of people on my street and in my neighborhood that were mafia people and how they were working the system and what went on and who paid off who and which judges were what. You know, I knew all of this from a really young age. So to me, I was attracted to making it a better place. I couldn't understand this police brutality concept. I've always had since then an authority figure thing, I think. And I just don't trust authority. You know, I don't respect authority.
No.
I don't want this hierarchy. I think we're all capable of being self-determining and creating our own societies. I totally believe defunding police is the way forwards. It doesn't mean you wipe off every policeman off the street, but it means you cut their budget so there's only like a quarter of them doing the hardcore police work, chasing people that are being murderers and things like that, and that there's community outreach people. Like at all of these protests, we would be fine with police stewards or marshals that are just there saying, hey, how's it going, guys? Standing there waiting to see if there's going to be any trouble happening. Because
or even better yet, if the police unions joined us and say, we are protesting the fact that they want us to fight these people for whatever fucking issue it is.
Absolutely. So, I mean, this is the way it has to go. But, you know, the only way these, like you say, people are going to get brave enough is if people kind of turn off some of the TV
We
shows.
have to be role models.
And they start more critical thinking, because if people are just in what advertising in the 50s was started as a diversion so that we would have this ideal lifestyle so nobody would get involved in politics. We all know that, you know, so that when people are occupied with having a good life and they have to work 2 jobs to have it sometimes, they don't have time to get involved in politics. So people have sat back and paid their taxes and think, oh, if I put all this money in a pot, who would be tempted to steal any money? Well, of course, it's human nature. If you just pay taxes and give them all your money and you don't get involved in local government, then it is going to be a problem, because the money will disappear. And that's what Bernie Sanders was, his greatest contribution, was waking people up in 2015. I worked on his campaign for a year as a volunteer in Brooklyn and organized huge rallies for him, and went to the Democratic Convention and was a marshal on the floor of the Democratic Convention with Hillary's lot. That was no small feat. And we did get beat up. There was physical violence and it was terrible. But Bernie was the first one to get people to actually get off the sofa, not the fringe, but just everybody to go back out into the streets. And like he says, never lose your sense of outrage. Now, okay, Bernie's also been the biggest disappointment, and we don't need to even talk about that because that's a huge long story.
They sold Bernie Sanders bobbleheads and action figures, and I have it. I have the little bird blue sticker from when the little bird landed on the podium. Like,
oh yes. I still wonder. I don't know the inside scoop if that was like
somebody trained that fucking bird.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I mean, I don't know that. But I don't have the inside scoop. You know,
at the time, if you look at, like, I know you guys got to wrap up. There was a message that got put into the chat, but at the time, if you look at just the world, then that's when like hope got reignited. I guess we're like people my age, right, like late 20s, recognized that like all of the weird things that they learned in the past were like true, and that no one fixed those problems.
So let's put all of our hopes into a politician who's promising to fix those problems.
Got us here.
I mean,
he did keep saying it's us, not me.
No, that's true. That's true.
He did keep saying to us. And I mean, when we were at the Democratic Convention and he got us into a room, like 50 of us delegates and volunteers, and he said to us, we're all sitting there with bright, shiny faces, and he says to us, okay, you have to vote for Hillary. And it's like, everybody was just like imploding, and nobody believed the words that come out of his mouth. But he had told us, remember, a few months back, if I ever tell you who to vote for or what to do, don't listen to me.
Oh.
He said it. He said it before because he knew it was going to happen, that he was going to be forced. Think about it. How many grandkids does that guy have? He's got walking liability written all over those kids, because if they want to get at Bernie because he's not playing ball, they've got all these grandkids to threaten him with, don't they?
Bernie's been playing ball since he signed an agreement with the Democratic National Committee in 1992 to always caucus with the Dems, and he would be allowed to keep his independent cred. Like, that's just how that worked. Chris Hedges wrote a brilliantly scathing article in 2015 that outlined all of this.
But remember what Chris Hedges also said in that article was that Bernie's comment was he wanted to do more good inside the party because he knew he could never take over the top spot. He would never get there. And his quote was, I don't want to end up like Ralph Nader in the wilderness.
Right. So fuck you for thinking about your legacy instead of the fucking like American people.
But at the end of the day,
they would never let him through. Let's be honest. How do you get through? Like, why do you think Biden was the choice?
So you go I'd put all of your energy into
I would, you would, but we don't
dismantling that system.
Well,
know
Look at
what
you.
the stakes are at that height.
The silver lining is that it trains a generation of organizers, regardless of how it ends up being. Regardless,
To think that reforming the Democratic Party from the inside is how you do it. That's what he trained a generation of organizers to do. Is work inside the system. That's what it was.
At
And
the end of
fuck
the day, I
him for
wouldn't be
doing
here
that.
if it hadn't started with that. Like, I started in that campaign and then turned into a pipeline fighter 3 months later because I was aware of the situation.
Everybody that's in activism now in the States pretty much came out of Bernie's campaign if they weren't doing it beforehand.
We were trying to close you out 20 minutes ago. I'm sorry.
But it all starts somewhere, and just do what you can with the time and the money that you have for the issues that you care about.
But listen, we got to make it look good. We got to make it look fun. We got to build community, and people will think, have a good time, fun, come along, join in. You know,
everybody
that's what it's
says
about.
it's the best time of your life. When I worked with Bernie, I thought, oh my God, and I was working another full-time job with my own business as well. I was like 80 hours a week, but I've never had so much fun. Then I came here, and with Julian's mob here, I feel the same way. I think
we have a lot of fun.
We've had so much fun, and it makes you alive. It makes you connected to the world again. You learn so much. I just think there's nothing better. Who could want
mental health?
Yeah, and social as well. We all, go for a drink.
Look the next generation in the eye.
Yeah.
We get a good night's sleep, don't we?
Yeah.
Sometimes.
But I would again like to thank you guys for joining us. I know you had to go like 20 minutes ago already.
Yeah.
So I just appreciate you finding the time to come on, and we'd love to have you all back on again.
Well, you guys are fantastic for doing what you're doing. You've got a huge platform, loads of followers, and you're the ones who inspire people to do it and to have opinions. Everybody's opinion is valid, and nobody should feel stupid because they don't know every single thing that you guys know. It's like learn and get involved and just do what comes to you, and don't feel you have to know more than anybody else. Just get involved.
You're awesome. You're holding up the sky over there.
Yes, you make it look fun as well.
And
that's right. Yeah,
we got to do a big shout out for Drew at Let Me Look TV for letting us use his studio.
Thank you, Drew. Yeah.
And we look forward to seeing listening to the podcast. So
we're going to make some shows with Eric because he's got a history of London activism in his apartment. So some of the big issues, and he's got a few academic friends, as you can probably tell by the way he speaks. We'll be doing a few of those shows as well. So it's going to be
more Eric is always good.
That's it. Everyone loves
Eric. One has to accept that responsibility. Yes. Become, and don't lose your anger, righteous indignation. We're not talking about being self-righteous, but you've got to be indignant at all these injustices, and
totally.
You've got to find a way of solving these problems. Remember, they have been solved. People often told us, you'll never change the so-called government. When you don't like a government, you call it a regime. In South Africa, apartheid, but we did. And say the same thing about Vietnam, we did. So dare to struggle, dare to win was a slogan that they had in China and Vietnam, and we should all be confident that
dare to struggle.
We will win. I mean, the most difficult struggles have been won. And we know that we are representing the point of view of all decent, enlightened humanity. I use these two words because you can be decent, not enlightened. You can be enlightened and not decent. Well, if you want to call it enlightenment. So knowing all that, joining other people and realizing what we're doing is what people want. I don't want to digress too much because I'm always reminded of what I might have learned in the past. But when Shakespeare says in Hamlet, to thine own self be true, I said, well, I'm not so sure of that because if maybe Hitler was true to himself, of course. The fallacy there is that Hitler didn't accept what was written in books. He had them burned and so forth. So I think we should amend that to the people be true.
And
then
keep
it would
fighting
follow
Nazis.
tonight the day you can't be false to yourself. So Hamlet, the statement begins in midair because you've got to know yourself. Otherwise, Hitler perhaps thought he was telling the truth and being sincere and so forth. Well, we all know, as I said, the flaw in that argument is that when there's something he didn't like, he would get rid of it. But we have to have the courage to dare to struggle, dare to win. I will say that. We're going to, because we know it's what people want. You know, we should want what other people want. You know, not just be selfish. Somebody mentioned I and we. Did you say, was it Jill? Yeah, I remember Muhammad Ali saying, I am the greatest. He was at Harvard University lecturing, and people said to him, give us the shortest poem in the world. So he said, shortest poem in the world? He asked. People went for a thesaurus. The shortest poem in the English language is Adam Hadam. So then he said, okay, I can change that and beat it. Me, we. And that's what he meant all the time. He's saying, I'm the greatest of black people. If you whites think of your supremacy as a racist, this is wrong. But at the same time, he realized
we don't.
Yeah, we've got to think of humanity. Then we'll be on the right track, and we'll have enough humility to realize that we want what many people want also, and that this ultimately in the interests of us also, because a nation oppressing another cannot itself be free.
Mm-hmm.
Free Julian Assange.
Yeah.
Keep fighting.
Yes. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Seriously, this was great. We love you guys so much.
And
Love you guys.
Remember the great Chelsea Manning too, okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Our sisters, okay?
Awesome.
Yes. Agreed.
Bye.
Yeah. Thank you guys. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Behave.
We will.
So it's so great to see those guys.
I know.
I mean,
They're
really, to the
amazing.
point with, we could have our own story of Eric, which is just like taking back their stupid slogans, you know, like just do it. That should be Eric's slogan.
Right?
All of the,
Dude, what a badass, right?
yeah. Like, oh, you don't like what's happening in Palestine? Well, why don't you go there and just stand somewhere and stop it? You know, I mean, it's like people don't realize that's open to them. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, how inspiring.
Yeah. I mean, if you didn't know why I love Eric so much before this interview, I'm pretty sure you figured it out during this. He's awesome.
Yeah,
I
because
mean-
he just does it. Okay, I'm going to go out to Belmarsh every weekend. Let's just start
And
doing
never
that.
misses. Never misses. Like there's no excuse in that man. There's no give up. You know, he just does it. He just gets up and does it. You know, that's the way it should be. You know, no excuses. No, I'm too tired or I'm busy or I can't or whatever. Just do it. Just go do it. And it is fun. We're a fucking blast, you guys. Come join us.
So do we want to give a quick update on where everything stands with the trial right now and all that kind of stuff?
I mean, we
Do that at
can.
the top.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Steve already kind of did it. The appeal is going to be dragged out for as long as they possibly can because they can. And our best shot right now is to embarrass and shame Joe Biden and link him to Donald Trump's legacy. And, you know,
And to the point, I'm glad that you said that again, Misty, because we were talking about that earlier, you know, and I do always think it's important to remember what Assange himself has said about censorship, which is that they are showing their weakness. I mean,
Yes.
they still need to have public buy-in, you know? So, I mean, now it's like, I keep through the beginning of this, I'm like, oh, at this point I'll be able to take a break, you know, and it's got to keep that pressure on. I mean,
You
especially on, I know, I didn't
You're
realize
so
the
hopeful.
activism, so
there's no break.
there's
There's never a break.
never a break, but
No, I mean, if you need a break, please, by all means, take a break because everybody needs to like just shut off for a second.
unwind, but I mean, there'll never be a break in like,
No.
this is not the time, you know?
No, there's no, like somebody once asked me, so what are you going to do if Julian Assange does get pardoned? What happens then? Well, that's just the tip of the iceberg. Like, that's just where it starts. Like this fight is never going to end. They are always going to be trying trying to silence voices of dissent. They're always going to be trying to, control the narrative and control the media and all of those things. That's just the nature of the beast. So it doesn't end if Julian Assange gets out of prison. Is that a win? Is that a massive win? Absolutely. But that's just like, that's just one tiny piece of the puzzle. Like, it still is a fight. It's always going to be a fight. There is never going to be a time where you can slack off and give up, and that just isn't how it works.
Unless we actually, dismantle a predatory and sociopathic system, and then we get to figure out how to not repeat all of those mistakes.
Well, that's the thing. Even then, we still have to be vigilant about not letting it slip back into what we're at now. I mean, so even then, as much as, you can kind of maybe breathe a little bit, you still have to be hyper vigilant and make sure that you're, taking the steps to ensure that we don't slip back into those, comfortable, oppressive sort of tendencies. Do you know what I mean?
Evoking Thomas Jefferson and bringing up the generational revolution concept. Jefferson also said from time to time the tree of liberty needs to be refreshed with the blood of patriots and tyrants. And I feel like we've already had the blood of too many patriots, and we're missing the blood of a lot of tyrants. There's been an imbalance in watering the tree of liberty.
Yes.
And far be it for me to advocate violence. I'm just saying.
I don't advocate violence because it's not going to fucking work. We've been giving them $750 billion a year. Not going to happen.
Well, that's to go do violence on other people to acquire their natural resources.
In my opinion, but.
That's not.
There's no hope in violence working.
Giving someone who has unlimited money to go make war is not the same thing, is what I'm talking about.
No, but they will turn that capability on us.
That's absolutely. Yeah, 100%.
Strength there,
100%. No, if you bring a gun to a tank fight, you're going to lose.
We cannot out-violent these sociopaths. It's not possible.
If you bring a tank to a drone fight, you're going to lose.
Yes.
But if you knock out the ability for the drone to fly in a non-violent manner, you could start to win.
Yes. We have to get creative, though. Like, we've been talking about it all show, and I'm so glad that was brought up, because we do need to get creative. Like, we have to start thinking really outside the box, because they are getting better and better at shutting us down and silencing us and, algorithmically erasing us. We're going to have to get creative. It's only going to get worse. I know we keep saying that, but under Joe Biden, all of that stuff is only going to get worse. Everybody tries to pretend like Joe Biden's the savior. No, this is not going to be good for us at all. They are going to cover up everything that he ever does, and he is going to shut all of us down very quickly. Independent media is going to be first. They've already shown that that's where they're headed. We have,
they're in the process, right?
Well, I mean, and what's troubling to me is that, your progressive saviors like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez are helping perpetuate the narrative that independent, like Jimmy Dore, when she said Jimmy Dore was being violent, that was intentional. If you don't think that was intentional, she is trying to get him deplatformed. That is clear as day. And if you don't think that that's the case, you need to open your eyes, because she is 100% participating in the attempt to shut down independent media. 100%. Stop making excuses for her. She is not your fucking friend. I don't know how many times I have to say it. She is not your friend.
Jimmy Dore is a 50-some-year-old comedian with a degenerative bone disease.
Yes,
he's not violent. He's not. He hasn't left his fucking garage in a year. You think he's gonna go do violence?
No.
Well, and we should take back the definitions of these words. What's violent? I mean, not
words. She claims words are violence. The word fuck is violent. Go fuck yourself, Alex.
But that's my point. I think it's violent too. I mean, how about these lies against, people voting for them to put Medicare for all in place? We're in the middle of the pandemic there. I mean, what's not violent about not giving people any, I mean, their own money back in an emergency situation, which is the reason for government, you know? I mean, it's just, that's
it. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez participates in violence. She's the one that gives cover to coups in Venezuela. She's the one that gives cover to war crimes and all of this other nonsense. She's violent. She is the one participating in violence, but she's trying to switch the narrative on you and make it so that we're the enemies. We're the ones that are the troublemakers, and that's not the case at all. She's the one participating in an oppressive government who is actively committing violence on its own citizens daily. Not having healthcare in the middle of a pandemic is violent. That is violent. People are dying. That's violent, period. So stop making excuses for her, please, for the love of God. It's driving me crazy.
The idea that no, I'm sorry, they did that wrong. That we're in an era where projection determines reality. The exact things that AOC or the Democrat or the Republicans or whatever the fight, these people are projecting their own actions and attributing those their actions onto regular, normal, innocent, everyday people.
Yeah, exactly.
It's very Machiavellian.
It's a total switch of reality. I mean, it is completely Orwellian. It is like a rewrite of definitions. It's just insanity. It
is. And I mean, I've been joking for a couple of years now that, like, yeah, we'll go bomb other countries for their oil, but America runs on gaslight. And
yeah,
that's where we're at. I mean, the narratives that come out of even independent media
right,
are so exclusively designed to make you think that you're crazy, to make you think that what you see with your own eyes outside of your own door isn't actually happening. And it's time to call that out for the bullshit that it is.
Yeah, we need individual people to be moral and courageous. That is what is required here, you know, and we also have to, I don't know what you guys think about this, but well, I do know what you think about it. I mean, that's part of why we're post-partisan here, is because we have to be able to trust our neighbors. And that's what's making me most concerned. I mean, honestly, having that step back in the Assange group from even my own political biases, just to, you know, not have those come out as much as possible, or keep it neutral. You can see, I am seeing people who almost are writing the exact same things, thinking that they are like opposite, you know. And I'm hoping, that's just been something that's coming into my mind more, is just thinking of how can we get back to our neighbor, you know, being able to talk to each other.
Well, that's another thing that they're helping to perpetuate, is that, I mean, like, they want to label 75 million Trump voters as irredeemable white supremacist Nazis.
They want to label me and Andrew that just because we were on the ground there covering it.
Yes, it's ridiculous. You guys, I live in small town Ohio.
Just get ready for a punch up.
Oh, hey, Josh, we're going to have to kick them.
Yeah.
I have reached for I've been hugging people.
that the hope was getting Trump supporters targets of the Department of Homeland Security. And
Yeah, we lost like a minute of sound.
What?
Minute and a half, something like that. Because I muted it when that shit came up. My bad.
Oh,
Hi guys,
We could probably wrap up
we're
then.
back.
Yeah.
Oh,
Good. You
right,
promised
thank
that rant
everybody
will be
for-
turned around on me to label me a Nazi. So that's fine.
But that's what I mean. On seeing that is just insane. To be, just amongst the left itself, it's like, my goodness. So if you don't hold a one opinion that's acceptable, you're a Nazi. You know.
well, here's the thing: we've got to have a real reckoning that from the mid '60s onward, the left as a I don't know, political movement has been more or less operated outside of Langley and Quantico, and when movements spring up overnight that are shiny and well-funded and everybody's got a placard that, is freshly printed and shit like that, you need to realize that you're a part of a limited fucking hangout there. And look, we've got authoritarians of every political stripe that are vying for your time and your money and your energy. And as soon as people stop participating in these limited hangouts that just promote more authoritarianism, regardless of political ideology, the sooner we can get to, get on actually building out independent communities. Like, I don't know what all the answers are, but I know that it starts with no longer participating in an illegitimate system that was designed to kill you. And that's the system that we have. Like, hands down. Like, that's what our system of government, that's what our system of business, that's what our system of making war and acquiring resources is all designed to do. Beat you down and kill you, or distract you and then kill you. And why we think that, like, changing the curtains is going to make a difference, or like slapping a new part on a machine designed to kill us is going to make a difference, it kills me, dude. Like, we got to stop. We got to stop. I don't know what all of the answers are going forward, but I know with, every single fiber of my being that continuing to participate in the system or in any shiny new movement that springs up that looks like it might be somewhat, left-leaning or somewhat right-leaning, but still advocating reform from within is disingenuous at the very, 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 very best. We gotta stop that shit. We do. Make an effort to stop participating. For real. Like, I would love to work with people to organize a fucking tax strike. I would.
Yeah.
I would love to work with people to organize blocking polling stations all across the country and shutting these places down. Of course, non-violently, but I mean, until the system itself it only exists on false belief, on propaganda. You can unfuck that propaganda. You can.
Rolling.
But the whole House of Cards analogy and shit like that is accurate, dude. A strong breeze can blow over that house of cards. It can. It's what happens afterwards, that really matters. And that's why it's so vital that we have to learn how to trust our neighbors again. Because if we actually do get to a point to where the system itself is in full and complete breakdown, if we don't trust our neighbors, that leaves us incredibly vulnerable to a strong man popping up, And this sort of like techno tyranny that we're entering in right now can go into very low tech, but very tyrannical very quickly. So developing these like communities of trust and learning how to talk to our fucking neighbors again is incredibly vital. And anybody telling you that you shouldn't trust your neighbor based on who they voted for is selling you something, and you should immediately reconsider listening to that person ever again.
Well, and I just, one thing too that I think is that we all also as well have to accept everything that we think about other people, about ourselves, because we're all in this society. You know what I mean? Like, that's been something this year too, is just trying, questioning my own premises and things that anything that I just kind of know, I'm questioning now, because I'm like, where the hell did that come from? And then also that we are not victims. I mean, the more victimized that you are, in a sense, I really do feel like the less you benefit from having that type of mentality. And I know that it's overused and it's not true, but I do think like that's like your own power and your own individual choice is important. And you know what? You are responsible for that. Like, we are all responsible for that. And I think that's something too, because I think propaganda feeds into, you're on the right side, not responsible. Nope, this is what's going on, and there's a certain level that people want to accept that. And I think we have to stop doing that and all become adults.
Yeah, we're seeing that right now with people who voted for Joe Biden being like, oh my God, I can't believe he's ramping up troops in Iraq. I didn't vote for this. Yes, you fucking did. You voted for Joe Biden. You voted for that. Like, stop playing a victim. He's got a 50-year career that shows you who he is. If you voted for that, you knew what you were voting for. You didn't go into that blind, homie. Like, you're not a victim here. Stop it. It's so fucking stupid.
And neither is Donald Trump. I mean, okay, like, you know what I mean? Like, that's the thing too. Like, we need to quit victimizing also, or playing victim for the people in power. Like, oh, poor AOC. I mean, things like that. It's like, no, come on, guys. Let's be real.
Yeah.
Stop making heroes out of politicians.
Yes.
Yeah.
Politicians are not your friends. Period. End of story.
None of them.
None of them ever. I'll say it again. People ask me all the time, is any politician ever going to be good enough for you? No. And they shouldn't be for you either. It's a ridiculous concept. Stop it.
My heroes are you guys. And my heroes are people like Niels Meltzer, who's like, oh, I was wrong. Those are my heroes.
My heroes are Julian Assange, Chelsea Manick, Eric Levy, you guys.
Yes, of course.
Caitlin Johnstone.
Yes.
Those are my heroes. Politicians are fucking assholes. They're not your friends. Stop pretending they are.
Dead-eyed, soulless servants.
They're sociopaths. All of them.
Can we wrap up now? Can we?
Yes.
You shut up, Smith. We're on one right. You go. You can wrap up,
I've
Andrew.
been very polite. I've let all the people's rant.
How dare you?
I mean, I'm about to jump in too, so.
No,
in Andrew's
we even got Sleepy worked up. Look at us.
Right?
Sleepy Josh, what you got? See some shit.
No. I was about to agree with Andrew that we should wrap up.
Oh.
That's a first. Can we get that?
I feel like shit, dude. I wanna go lay down.
No, I'm just teasing.
Oh, okay.
But I would like to thank everybody for joining us. My name's Andrew Smith. You can find me on Twitter at Andrew Zigman. Not the most active, but I'm still on there. You can find us on Twitter at action_4 Assange. You can also find our website, action4assange.com. I will be putting up the call to action for the end of this month here in the next day or so. So I look forward to putting that out. So keep your eyes peeled, and I'm sure we'll be talking about it more on Tuesday. But thank you to everyone for watching. Thank you for the UK crew for joining us, and my lovely co-hosts and Sleepy Josh for helping bring all this together.
I'm lovely.
Lovely.
And my name is Kendra Christian, and I head up the group Denver Free Assange in Denver. You can follow us at DNV Free JA. We also will be posting events on Assange defense. They've been posting events for us as well as Action for Assange. We're looking to do something mid-February, so be looking for that. Milwaukee did a really great forum for the Unitarian Church, and both Niels Meltzer and Ray McGovern spoke there, and it was a really big success and really turning some minds that we need to. And so we're hoping to mimic that, take some of that work and do that in Denver. So stay tuned for that. And that's all I have. Thanks to the chat and thanks to our guests. And that's it.
Okay. And I am Misty Winston. You can find me on Twitter at Sarcasm Stardust. Unlike Andrew, I'm there all the time. So come and join me on Twitter. Let's see. I have another show called Facts on the Ground, which we just had like a crazy marathon week of a ridiculous amount of interviews. So there's a shit ton of content out there for you guys. We're on the Rockfin now, which is super cool. So join us over there because, you know, YouTube's not really our friend. Yeah, other than that, the letter writing campaign. I want to mention that, bring that up one more time because it starts on Monday. If you guys are interested in joining in on that, we do have a Discord server set up so we can kind of just keep organized and, you know, bat around ideas of who we can send letters to and stuff like that. Again, it's not like a super huge, like this is going to make all the difference in the world, but it is something very easy that you can do to participate. All it is just a quick short letter that you can mail out. And if we do it en masse, if we have like a coordinated effort where we're all sending our letters at the same time, it can make a bigger impact. So if you want to join in with that, join the Discord server. You can contact me on Twitter if you need the link for that. I'm sure we can probably post it somewhere on the website or something or other. I wasn't really prepared for this. So yeah, other than that,
I can put it on the
just
site.
thanks to the chat.
Shoot me the
What?
link. Shoot me the Discord links and stuff, and I'll put it on the site.
Okay, cool. So yeah, check the website out and you can find the link there. Other than that, thanks to the chat, thanks to my co-hosts, thanks to the UK team, especially Eric, who I love so much. It was super awesome to have him on today. And yeah, I think that's it.
My name's Steve Poikin, and I host a show called Slow News Day that you should be watching on the Rockman. Because fuck YouTube. Right in the air. Like, just... we frequently have the best conversations on the internet on that show, and that's through no fault of mine. I've been very, very fortunate to get incredible guests. And tomorrow, one of those guests will be Jared Beck, DNC fraud lawsuit attorney and all-around brain breaker. Vanessa Beeley will be back on next week. If I'm rained out of work early, it'll happen earlier. Despite rumors, the U.S. is ramping up our military presence in Syria. And this has been downplayed a lot. But since Christmas, Israel has been relentlessly bombing Syria. Again, largely unreported. And the Israelis have looked at the incoming Biden administration as a gift to their militarism. So we're going to be talking about that extensively. Yeah, y'all should show up for that. We got some incredible things in the works over there. So slownewsdayshow.com is the website. You can find the full archive of our shows there, as well as most of the vigils. I do have a Discord server, I think. I don't know. I wouldn't know. I never go there. I'm horrible at this shit. I really am. Big thanks to Allie Mason, Jill Everett, Eric Levy, and Let Me Look TV. Thanks to my co-hosts and Sleepy Josh on the ones and twos. Everybody in the chat, we fucking love you guys. We will see you. Well, hopefully I'll see you tomorrow for the Jared Beck show. But if not, we'll catch you on Tuesday. Good luck to us all.